Have you heard that saying, seeing is believing? I know I have. And when we operate from a seeing is believing and what we're seeing we don't like, then we can believe that we are nothing more than what we're seeing. And that could produce feelings of unworthiness because that's what we're seeing, right? Whether it's in relationships and staying in one that is not serving your highest good, or with money in seeing or feeling like money is scarce. You never have enough in the bank. You're living paycheck to paycheck. So you don't believe in your ability to attract financial abundance or opportunities that would bring you more financial wealth. And that's what we're going to talk about today is money and the scarcity mentality and the stories that we tell ourselves about money so we can start changing the narrative and start bringing forth more opportunity and more abundance. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the You Are Limitless podcast. I'm your host, Madam Chiko, coming to you from the holistic wellness space as a spiritual transformational life coach. And I thank you for joining me on another episode here on YALL. And of course, if you're just now tuning in, I am so glad to have you with me on my journey and having me a part of yours. And you're always welcomed and loved unconditionally here. This is my way of bringing psychology, metaphysical concepts, universal laws, as well as my own story of extreme limitations due to abuse, drug abuse, and being a justice impacted individual into the light so that we can learn to let go of what doesn't serve us and start to incorporate more of our truth. So I'm always excited about getting into our vortex, raising our vibration, and discovering more of who we truly are by letting go of those yucky, limiting, negative beliefs that keep us from that truth. And also, I had somebody ask me what it means to be a justice impacted individual. And in short, that just means that in some form or fashion, you have been negatively impacted by the criminal justice system, or not even just the criminal justice system, but even like the immigration system. So that's what that means. And no, I don't see myself as impacted, but for practical purposes to be able to relate to those who have been in the criminal justice system as a defendant, to be like, hey, I've been there and I know what it's like. And this is how I came up from that. So I just wanted to clarify that since I say that all the time. And I'm like, wait, maybe some people don't really know what that term means. So anyways, this is a fun topic. Okay. And I really want us to think of this as a fun topic because a lot of times it can be sensitive in terms of talking about money. Money is a hot button issue. Usually there's like two areas of vulnerability for people, and that's typically around their finances and sexuality. And that's just something I've come to understand. So this idea of our money stories can truly shape how we show up in the world for ourselves, and also how we show up in our businesses, if we own a business or if we're an entrepreneur, or even in our career paths and job choices, or even lack of job choices or career paths. And this is no judgment. There's never any judgment here. But there are some people who may, get into marriages for financial purposes, and that could be their path. So to say, first of all, let me just say this. To say that money isn't important, to me, it's just my opinion, is ignorant. In that money itself isn't important, okay? The physical dollar and coins and, digital currencies and whatnot, it's not that it's important in and of itself, but it's more the value of what we're doing that brings us the wealth. And also this idea of just wanting to be comfortable, wanting to be happy. And no, I don't think that we should associate money with that, right? But I don't think it's wrong to want money. And I've had this happen before working with someone, and they thought that it was humble of them to not want money. And it's like, come on now. So nevertheless, just all of my opinions. So do with this as you will. But I'm going to speak from my experience as a transformational life coach because I see this all the time. And if you've been in sales and marketing, you know that the main pushback you get when it comes to selling products or services is money. So let's back up into the stories we tell ourselves about money, because I think that people get stuck in their money stories for two main reasons. Okay. So number one is the idea of seeing is believing. And there is this detachment from the idea of the imagination and expansion when you are living in this seeing is believing. And also, this is blocking the idea of manifestation, because you're really not understanding. And I'm not talking like you in specific, but in general, you're really not understanding how manifestation works when you are focused solely on seeing is believing. And then number two is our money stories, the things that we're telling ourselves about why we find ourselves in whatever predicament we find ourselves in, right? Or in whatever abundance we find ourselves in. It is truly our money stories. And a lot of them are actually adopted stories as well, conditionings that you've heard growing up. And we're going to talk about a few of them, because I really want to help dispel some of these money stories so that you can start taking action, or at least start to release some of the blockages that is pent up in your imagination, pent up in your brain, pent up in your body about money and abundance. We can also throw in a third thing, by the way, which would be the idea of survival mode, in that we feel like we won't survive if we spend money or if we take the leap of faith. So when you are working in survival mode, you are working against the vibration it requires to have abundance as well as joy. But remember that money isn't necessarily associated with joy, and you're going to see just why that is. So let's talk about the first point. Seeing is believing, and how backwards we are in this idea. Do you remember being a kid and being able to play make-believe or have a tea party, and it felt so real, like you were literally sipping on tea, but there was nothing in the cup? Or an imaginary game that you made up, yet all the neighborhood kids played along and you saw the game manifest in reality, just based on the imagination. But as we get older, we kind of detach from our imagination for one reason or another. And I know for me, I dealt with a lot of trauma. And so there was no room in the imagination to dream big when your body is in a heightened state of fight or flight, which is just a hijacked amygdala, which that's, a part of the brain. It's the reptilian part of the brain that tells you when it's time to fight, when it's time to flight, when it's time to freeze, when there's an actual danger. So that's really what that is. Okay. And I think that a lot of times we are living in a heightened state and there's no real danger other than whatever psychological danger we're creating for ourselves. So when you're operating in the seeing is believing mode, if you're seeing that you aren't attracting the kind of clients you want, or the kind of job you want, or getting attached to the past, or you can't envision your purpose, whatever have you, you are selling yourself short or not at all, because again, what you are seeing is confirming in your mind that opportunity is scarce, you are not skilled at what you do, or anything else you are telling yourself. And a lot of people operate in the seeing is believing. I heard this growing up, and I'm sure you have, but you have to work forward in the present moment. And that's believing is seeing, okay? Because really what you are believing is what's coming to fruition when you think about it. Even the negative beliefs, because everything out there in this external world is a reflection of your internal state of being. And we'll talk more about this later, but truly it is a reflection. If you believe that you won't be successful, or you're waiting for the shoe to drop, then you will sabotage any chance of being successful as you define it. For example, the gym. As you guys may know, and if you follow me on Instagram, you definitely know, but the gym is like my second home. I love the gym. However, when I started working out, I didn't have a love for working out at all. I was a smoker. I was getting off of drugs, and running was a pain in the ass, and lifting weights was a hell nah. But I kept coming back because I believed that I could restore my body back to health after years of drug abuse, even though I couldn't see the results right away. And this is why many people quit the gym or quit anything, any entrepreneurial projects. Not always the reason, but that's a large part of the reason, is because this expectation of seeing results and getting attached to the quote end results. And there is really no end. We just keep evolving, yada, yada, and so forth. But when that quote end result doesn't happen, they give up. because of operating on seeing is believing. To manifest, which means to make visible what is already here and now, you have to be the vibration of what it takes to achieve what it is you want to bring into physicality. And that means that you have to believe, you got to stand in that conviction that you can do it, right? This is not some motivational speak. Like, this is how physics works. Like, this is how manifestation works. These are metaphysical concepts that have been backed by science. In that, it's not about making things appear per se over there, which a lot of people think that, oh, look at what he manifested. It's like, no, look at what that person became the vibration of and had it come to fruition because of actions that he or she took. So you have to become that person you need to be in order to take the actions that that version of you would take in order to make things come into fruition. Does that make sense? Because I know it's a lot to take in, and really, if you have to go back and listen to this and meditate on this idea of manifestation or do your research on this, because one podcast that's like not up to 30 minutes, who knows? It's just not enough to be able to really hone this idea in. And of course, repetition is the best teacher. So we'll keep talking about this. But if you can shift your thinking from a seeing is believing to a believing is seeing, and then you have to be repetitive in that belief to hardwire it into your subconscious brain. You really have to keep choosing to believe. Don't give up on yourself. I hope that makes sense. When you do start to change the belief, you may notice the second point coming up, and that is the money stories we tell ourselves, okay? In that we judge people for how rich or poor we perceive them to be. We judge people for being flashy or for being homeless. We judge people for hustling and bustling, and we'll get to that part later. But literally, it's all stories. And also, just a side note, if you are judging, that's not the vibration it takes to attract all you need in terms of abundance, money, as you define it. So let's just keep that in mind. But when we're telling ourselves these stories, it's essentially confirming the biases that maybe we can't. Maybe this is our lot in life. Maybe this is just not what we're cut out to do. In that, we're telling ourselves stories such as, and I know you've heard this before, in that success is difficult, or you gotta hustle in order to be successful or to make money. No pain, no gain. All these sayings gets internalized by the collective, in that if we don't work hard or we're not breaking a sweat, then we're not going to be successful. We're not going to make money. And so this is, to me, why, at least in the entrepreneurial space, and also there's another, I totally forgot about this, your passion can't make you money. And that's a really powerful one, because you have a lot of creative people who have that belief of, well, my passion can't make me money, so I might as well go into something that could make me money, and it just stifles the imagination. But I think that a lot of people talk shit in the entrepreneurial space. They kind of like shit on academia because, and I see why. Like, I am both in the entrepreneurial space as an online coach, also in person, hosting groups and all that good stuff, but also in the academia space as a law student. So in terms of entrepreneurs shitting on academia, it's like you get programmed that the only way to succeed is to go to school and, do this and have a family in this order. And I get it. And so a lot of people end up going into academia, collecting debt and all that stuff. And they don't really know what they're getting into because, you're like 18, 19, 20, 21. You're young. And now you're out of school and you're just in the workforce, and you may not be doing something that you want to do. Maybe your parents told you to do that because your parents also have the belief of money is hard to come by, or you have to struggle, or blah, 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 what have you. And I'm not saying that everybody goes through that or everybody who's in academia believes in that, because I'm in it and I don't believe in that. But I've also taken a completely different route in terms of how I got to academia, in that I developed my spiritual, emotional being self first. And then I decided, hey, I know that I can help people in the law field, people who are defendants, and also leaders in the law field come back into their truth as well. And that's part of what I didn't realize. This is part of the abundance, by the way, that I'm talking about, in that when you are in an abundant mindset, like, the money flows. It's beautiful. And I know what it's like to not be in an abundant mindset. And I saw that I was attracting clients that were unable to pay for my program, as opposed to now where I'm attracting not only clients that could pay for my program, but also like opportunity to expand my programs, create more, and also help those in the professional field of law. Like, it's just so amazing when you're one, stop telling yourself these stories, change your beliefs around certain things such as money, change your stories. But let's talk about the stories, because when we're telling ourselves these stories on repeat, they become real. So you may achieve financial abundance, but you're also telling yourself that success is difficult. So you're breaking a sweat when you may not have to. You're stressing out. You're creating anxiety that may not be necessary in order to achieve what it is that you want to achieve, you know? And it may not be a popular idea, but there are some people who don't break a sweat. Okay. And I feel like I'm at that point where I'm one of them. But let me just speak from those who, for some, they're like, oh, they're not like me because they're making millions and billions of dollars or what have you. And, you know, they're not breaking a sweat doing it. I mean, you don't have to. Success doesn't have to be difficult unless you say that. That's just a story. That's just a belief. And sometimes we get too attached to our beliefs that they become real and imposed on other people, imposed on your reality. And so you're blocking any opportunity that could show you that no, acquiring money does not have to be hard at all. And actually, it's not hard. It's literally how you're going about doing it in order to achieve that. And so change the stories, which requires you to change your definitions, change your beliefs. Watch what will happen when you start telling yourself a different story on repeat, that success is effortless. Okay, I don't have to grind to make money. My passion can make me money. Like, what's in fairy tales is literally how life can be, but we're not really taught to believe that. So it's up to us. We are the captain of our ship. It is up to us to start telling us which way we want to go, to start steering that ship, to start rewiring our subconscious to believe in these abundant thinking. And I hope that makes sense too. Like, this can be a hard pill to swallow whenever you realize how much stress you're putting on, but also it's a great pill to swallow whenever you realize, hey, I don't have to be doing this, what I'm doing in this way anymore. And, you know, when we start to trust the unfolding of our life, we're allowing universal guidance to come in, our intuition to come in. We're sitting and we're meditating on what it is that we're wanting to be. We're meditating on the new state of being that we're creating. You will be surprised. Like, the law of attraction has no choice but to bring you that point of attraction that comes from within, that state of being that comes from within, rather than do, and literally banging your head up against the wall. When we don't have to do that anymore. We are at a day and age where we don't have to continue struggling to learn a lesson, struggling to make ends meet. But we really have to believe that, and that would require a shift. We got to shift. But what happens if it's hard to shift? Okay, so let's go back to, let's go to the third point. And that third point is simply this idea of survival mode. Like, we won't survive if we make money. We won't survive if we take that leap of faith. We won't survive, blah, 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 all these things. Like, honestly, first of all, a leap of faith to me can be interpreted as you don't trust the unfolding of your life. You don't trust divine guidance. You don't trust your intuition, your higher self. And so let's just, point that out there, that really, whenever you really trust and you have the utmost belief in yourself and your abilities, there really isn't much leap of faith you're taking. When you're in survival mode, you are working against the vibration it requires to attract abundance and also joy, because there ain't no joy in survival mode. You could be not financially wealthy, but happy and not in survival mode. So again, survival mode does not necessarily equate to money. However, I do think there's a correlation in terms of like, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and now rent's due and survival mode gets kicked in. So we want to take ourselves out of survival mode. We really want to use step 1 and 2. We want to use idea 1 and idea 2 in order to get ourselves out of survival mode, because you can't create whenever you're in that mode. You're using up your energy to sustain yourself. All that creative energy is now going into the body, because your body is preparing for battle whenever there is no battle. Okay. Or maybe there is, because whenever you are stuck in that seeing is believing and what you're seeing around you is, hey, pass through balance on something, then yeah, like all of that creative energy is now being placed in the body and away from your dreams, your goals, whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve, whether it's just achieving a better state of being. So this idea of survival mode, also ask yourself, like, what is it that's creating the survival mode? What stories are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself stories that, well, this is my lot in life? Are you telling yourself stories, well, some people are just more privileged than me? What stories are you telling yourself? And also, can you tell yourself a different story? The answer is yes, by the way. Can you realize that your stories are just a figment of your imagination? They are not fact. And actually, it's very creative using your imagination to tell yourself stories of disempowerment. You're using your creative energy to tell yourself stories of disempowerment, literally. So can we start to tell ourselves a different story so that we can put ourselves in believing is seeing? Because when we are putting ourselves in believing is seeing, we're slowly taking ourselves out of survival mode. And when we slowly take ourselves out of survival mode, then we can see more opportunity that awaits us. We may even apply for another job. We may just do things a little bit differently and tap into that limitless abundance. So what are we telling ourselves on repeats? Really important in terms of our money stories. Get really, really clear with what it is that we're telling ourselves. Write all this down too, so that you can release that and start to incorporate new stories, new beliefs on repeat. You can't give up, okay? Don't give up. Because if I had given up whenever I felt disempowered, whenever I first started online marketing anyways, I had hired a marketing company because I didn't believe in myself. I hired one that was just so out of alignment. There were thousands of dollars, and it was so out of alignment with everything that I stood for in terms of their sales system, how they were going about it, because they were just not part of my truth at all. So whenever I didn't believe in myself, I also found people who didn't believe in my program, didn't believe that I could deliver. But once I changed that point of attraction and I really stood firm on my, I was convicted in what I am doing. I still am. And actually, I'm even more convicted because one, I believed it, and then I'm seeing it happen. I'm seeing the progress. I'm seeing the change. I'm seeing the transformation in the people that I work with. It's just phenomenal. And no, I'm not like advertising, but this is just my experience that has just truly been amazing. Just watching this happen and watching where I came from and seeing how my point of attraction was literally showing me where I was financially speaking. So I'm telling you, change the story, change your life. Remember, believing is seeing. It's not the opposite way around. Seeing is not believing. Otherwise, all you're going to manifest is what you're seeing. So thank you guys so much for joining me on another episode on YALL. And we'll definitely have to talk about money again as time goes on, because I really want everyone to get comfortable with the idea of money and abundance and manifestation, and understanding that we have the power, the innate power, the limitless power to tell ourselves a different story. We have the power to shift our belief, to shift our perspective, and watch how our outer world changes. But it all starts from within, okay? It all starts within. So I really appreciate you guys letting me share my ideas. I hope it resonated, but if it doesn't, at the end of the day, like, my job is just to express myself, put myself out there, show you what worked for me, show you what works for my clients. If it resonates, wonderful, I love it. If it doesn't, also wonderful, because somewhere along the line, you can find information that does resonate and move in a direction of your highest good. Move in a direction of limitlessness, of beliefs that are congruent with abundance as you define it. Thank you for being a part of my journey and also having me a part of your journey. One last thing I do want to add is, if you guys go to my website or go to my Linktree link, I want you to subscribe to my newsletter, because I don't send spam. It's all love, all inspirational stuff. And I go even deeper into certain things that I think would help. And also, there's always all kinds of cool offerings. And of course, if you want to schedule an appointment to talk with me about coaching opportunities or be a part of the waitlist for group coaching here in the near future, I'm so excited, please reach out. And also, if you have any questions for me, I would love to hear about it. I want to hear your questions, anything you can ask me, any burning desires, and I will definitely answer them, because a lot of times whenever someone asks a question, there's thousands of people who are asking the same question. So Feel free to share your opinions, thoughts, concerns, questions. And as always, thank you for being with me on the show. And I will see y'all next time on You Are Limitless.